The pre-testing in Bahrain has shown so much regarding the pace of the 2023 cars, and still we have no idea whether some of the teams have unleashed their full power. Everyone watching this video has probably heard of sandbagging, but for those of you who didn't, we'll explain it later in this video, as we're also going to talk about Mercedes and how the Brackley-based team utilizes this tactic perfectly. But shockingly, Toto Wolff appears to have exposed the team this time, and while he tried to downplay the chances of not beating Red Bull and Ferrari in a direct battle, the cards have already been revealed to the public. Up until the previous season, no one really trusted Mercedes when they said that they were the underdogs for the upcoming season. One of the reasons why that is whenever Wolff or Elliott went on to say that Hamilton and Bottas had cruised to win the majority of the races in that season, and then Wolff would say stuff like, "We were the underdogs, but we managed to win the season thanks to our team's efforts." But 2022 was the year where Mercedes' biggest weakness was shown to the world, and that's adapting to new regulations. The porpoising and bouncing phenomenon were frequent foes for the Brackley-based squad before being fixed and brought under control in Silverstone. But at that point, the championship was more or less being fought between Verstappen and Leclerc, with Mercedes missing a lot of pace to catch up to the top two teams. It was evident that 2022 was the year of the Bulls, so everyone was waiting for the next season in order to see closer competition and fiercer battles being fought. That's why Ferrari stopped developing the 2022 car so early in the season and focused on the 2023 Challenger, with Mercedes also choosing this path prematurely in the 2022 season. However, it appears that the Silver Arrows aren't ready to reveal their cards as early as preseason testing, which has become a pattern for the Brackley-based team. Even though Russell has driven 69 laps with no porpoising at all, and Wolff said that the car has felt perfectly under the hands of the young Brit, the Austrian wasn't really happy with the pace that the W14 has shown on the grid, and it was noticeable given the fact that Hamilton was slower by 1 second compared to Red Bull and Ferrari during the pre-season tests in Bahrain. So the Mercedes fans were worried that the 2023 season is going to be similar to the 2022 season. Although the first day of testing in Bahrain didn't show too many flaws for the Silver Arrows, it was evident that they're not even close to Red Bull, even though Hamilton seemed to have given the maximum of himself in order to extract the optimum performance of the W14. That can be seen through the numbers, with Hamilton braking the latest and hitting the throttle the earliest compared to Verstappen and Sainz through the corners, which shows that the Brit has a lot of trust in the handling of the W14. Despite this, it was clear that the top speed of the W14 needed to be improved, as Hamilton's top speed was 314 km per hour, 6 km per hour slower than Verstappen, and 11 km per hour slower than Sainz, who topped the speed charts. But according to Wolff, new problems have arisen for Mercedes, and they're not the ones that you'd hope for: porpoising and bouncing. Even though we've seen Sainz bounce heavily throughout the main straights, that hasn't been noted on Hamilton's W14. With the Austrian team boss further talking about the new issues that have resurfaced for the Silver Arrows. The car is out of balance this morning. You can see we're leaving black marks on acceleration. It's hot and we didn't find the right setup in these conditions, which is part of learning with this car. It's not the driver who is overdriving the car isn't giving us enough grip from the rear. Obviously, everything that Wolff says needs to be taken with a grain of salt, given the fact that statements like this have come constantly throughout the previous season as well. If you recall, Mercedes practically handed the championship to Ferrari during pre-season testing in 2018, only for the Silver Arrows to go on and win the first 8 races of the season. Furthermore, the technical director of the team, Mike Elliott, continued to speak about Mercedes' pace compared to Red Bull, and when he was asked whether they could catch up to the Bulls early in the season, he had a very pessimistic view. He said that while the balance of the car is much better and the drivers have much more grip at the rear, there's no euphoria just yet, as Red Bull is currently 6/10 ahead of the Silver Arrows. Why is this such a big deal to us? Well, we know that Mercedes has a habit of sandbagging in the pre-season, which is why nobody takes them seriously in this period. But never before in Mercedes F1 history has the team admitted to sandbagging and underperformance. Never until this point. Wolff has spoken about this matter, more precisely whether he's happy with where the team stands in relation to the competition, and his answer has made the Mercedes fans very happy, as he went on to say, "Red Bull and Ferrari are fast, no surprise there. It's difficult to judge. Everyone is playing around with fuel loads and hiding on engine modes. We're still hiding a little bit. You need to wait for the 3 days running and also when the soft tires come on. Now, this definitely changes everything. With Mercedes admitting that they are holding off on performance, it's safe to say we are yet to see the best out of the W14. But this is definitely a double-edged sword for the Silver Arrows, because when you go out there and publicly admit that you're holding back on performance, the other teams are always going to be cautious of your cars when that is asked of them. While the first day of pre-testing went smoothly, the second day brought something that Mercedes and their fans despise: engine failure. During the tryouts in Silverstone, it was reported that the W14 engine suffered from misfiring, which was blamed on the misplacement of the engine. However, during the second day in Bahrain, Russell's car has caused the first red flag of the day, as the W14 has suffered from what's reported to be a hydraulic failure on the steering wheel at turn 8. With Russell downshifting, the car became stuck in 4th gear, which caused the car to eventually slow to a stop on the inside of the left-hand turn 10. Mercedes does not like making 2 mistakes in a row, and on top of that, Hamilton's car lost a piece while driving through the track on the second day in Bahrain, forcing him to visit the pit stop and have his testing day disrupted. But what does Russell have to say about the upcoming challenge of fighting with Perez and Verstappen regularly in the 2023 season? Obviously, the Brit has a lot of hope, and when talking about this matter, he added, "We definitely believe eventually we will have a car capable of going into that fight. Whether we're going to have that next weekend in Bahrain, I think is maybe a bit of a stretch. They look very strong, very stable, and obviously Max is performing very well. But there's no reason why eventually we can't get there at some point in this year, and we've always seen the strength of Mercedes and their development rates." While the team is likely sandbagging their performance, with Wolff directly admitting to implementing this tactic to hide their performance compared to Red Bull and Ferrari, Russell has provided a further update on the W14 and how he felt when he drove it for the first time on the track. The news he had to say is exactly what every Mercedes fan wants to hear, with him saying that the W14 is a step in the right direction and compared to 12 months ago, things are running a lot smoother. So, who is to be trusted? Obviously, the team has experienced some issues early in the pre-testing in Bahrain, but this is exactly where you want to experience issues, if there are any present in the team's engineering masterpiece. And it's a huge plus that the porpoising appears to be gone for the W14. However, we must question this, given that Mercedes hasn't tried out every weapon in their arsenal in order to showcase the full potential of the W14. With that being said, what do you think about Wolff's statement about Mercedes deliberately holding off on their true performance compared to Red Bull and Ferrari? Let us know in the comments below.